Afternoon everyone. Exciting video today because it's project vote day and the start of the new book. But I couldn't resist coming outside and filming this beautiful rose. It's the first time it's opened and it's wet with last night's rain. So beautiful. Anyway, on with the video. So the vote's in. And those of you who read comments are probably not surprised at all to know that number one is the quilt. So everybody seemed to think I should finish my quilt. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not sure at the minute whether it's going to be hand or machine. I'm going to test hand quilting first, but that definitely was first. Number two, the mushroom lampshade. That was 4 times less of the vote than the quilt. So coming in a respectable second, but by a long way behind the quilt. Boom. You're interrupting the filming again. I know. You're cute, but you're noisy. Coming in at number 3, the Borrow style jacket, which now has a lovely project case in the form of a picnic case that I picked up for £3 at a boot sale last week, and I've already cleaned it, lined the bottom and got my fabrics in ready for when I do that. So number 3. Coming in at 4th, the Lichen Duster Coat. Quite surprised that this came that far down actually. I was really looking forward to doing it, but it'll be sometime later now. Maybe I'll get it done for the autumn, which means that coming in last, and at number 5, the Hinterland dress. So I guess I'm not going to be getting a summer dress anytime soon. So there you have it. Thank you everybody who voted for me to do a project. Thank you for all the helpful suggestions about what order to do things in, and even if I took the cumulative vote, the quilt still came out on top by an absolute mile. So the quilt it is. I'll be practicing whether I can hand quilt through the Warm and Natural or not. That'll decide me on whether it's going to be hand or machine. I am really looking forward to getting it finished now though. It's been waiting so long and it's so pretty. I'll tell you more about that quilt design on Wednesday maybe, when I do some hand quilting. Thank you everybody for voting, and I hope you're looking forward to seeing the quilt get done. So I expect to see me working on the quilt probably on Wednesdays from now on, along with whatever else I'm up to. I'm really excited to start it. I was a bit ambivalent, I think. It's been waiting so long, but now that it's actually coming to me sewing it, I'm really looking forward to it. Not sure at the moment whether it'll be hand or machine. I'll find out on Wednesday. By Wednesday I'll know. In the meantime, I want to tell you about the new fabric book. So I've decided what I'm going to be doing. I've known for a while that I wanted to do a book on birds, and it's really because the little blackbird that's kept coming to me in the yard when I'm sitting outside. So my very first page is definitely going to be a blackbird. So I'm going to lay out the supplies of what I think you'll need to get around. So if anybody wants to do a similar thing, my book is definitely going to be British birds, and it's really going to be the birds that probably I see in the garden, and each page will be a bird. Oh, I forgot to work out how many pages I was going to do. I'll work that out by Wednesday. So I've got my supplies laid out and I'm going to show you that now. And the other thing to say though is, because I was so excited about Frances's workshop last weekend, I've decided I'm actually going to be doing 2 books at the same time. So one, like my original book, will be all fabric, and it'll be a lot of slow stitching and a lot of creativity. Well, they'll all be creativity really. But the second book, I'm going to experiment with the way that I made with Frances last weekend, and so slightly different supplies for that, and one or two different sorts of techniques that we can go through. So I'm going to do that book, I think, with flowers, and whether it's garden flowers or wildflowers, I'm not actually sure, and maybe it doesn't matter, it'll just be whichever flower I decide to do at the time. So what I'd encourage you to do is have a look for your own inspiration between now and maybe Wednesday or next Sunday, and just see what you have on hand yourself. You don't have to be going out buying any supplies. You should have things around, especially all us crafters, all we crafters, we have all sorts of things. And if you do need to go and buy fabric because you don't have a huge stash, I'd encourage you to go to the charity shops, the thrift shops. You can get all sorts. Especially what I find is good is looking in the children's or the baby section, because you can pick things up for very little money, and they've usually got nice little prints or tiny flowers or nice quite small designs that work really well when you're making a fabric book or a collage. Also, they're quite often in quite nice fabrics, so you can get little linen dresses or little cotton sundresses that just have enough fabric for you to do something with, and it's not going to break the bank. I definitely won't be buying anything at all. I've already got... No, I won't be buying anything at all. I will definitely just be shopping my craft room for all the things that I need. So I will lay them out now, and yeah, that'll be it. I'm hoping you're as excited as me about it, because I am quite excited about it. So the supplies I'm going to be using, first off, I've decided that the size of my book is going to be, the finished page size is going to be 6 inches wide, which is around about 15 centimetres, and 8 inches long, which is 20.5 centimetres. So I've already cut out 2 pieces of cardboard. You actually need 3 altogether. So the first 2 pieces will be the front and back of the, well, what will be for me the flower book. And they will be getting covered in fabric. The third piece of card, that size, is actually going to be my template for my fabric book pages. So on here I've got a piece of old sheeting, or a bit of old worn out sheeting, and I'm using my card as a template, and I draw around with the disappearing pen. And that's so that I can see, when I'm working on my piece of fabric, the finished size that I need to keep my stitching and my fabric within. It's no point if you end up on these salvages parts, because it just makes everything more difficult to put together. So for one thing, you need to know what size your page is going to be, and by all means just do whatever size book you would like it to be. Just make yourself a template so you can be consistent. The other thing is to leave a wide margin. I definitely don't recommend cutting out all your pages in one go. Things change, your ideas change, and you may need more or less fabric because of what you do with it. Sometimes the slow stitching pulls your fabric in. If you've made it too small or too mean around the edge, you end up with a page that's not quite big enough. So definitely leave yourself a good margin right round the end. Some of the pages will be able to be worked in your hand, but there are definitely times when I had to hoop mine up, and so by leaving a good margin, you've got room to put your page in a hoop, but also you've got room to attach it onto a different fabric and then put it in a larger hoop, which sometimes is really helpful. The second thing I actually do is, I haven't done it on this one yet, is I actually take tacking stitches and I tack right round the blue line, because 2 reasons for that. If I'm ironing anything on, my pen line is going to disappear. The tacking stitches will stay there. The other thing is, right at the end, when you're putting your book together, your tacking stitches will show on the reverse side and you know exactly where the edge of your page is. It only takes a minute or two, doesn't matter what colour thread you go around it in, but just take some big tacking stitches right round that line, and then you've got the security of knowing your finished page size from the beginning to the end. So that's the first bits. You definitely could cut these from mat board, but a cardboard box is usually free because it's coming to your house with a parcel or something, so they will work absolutely fine. So whatever size book you want to do, mine's going to be 6 by 8. You need one each for the front and back of one of the books, and the third piece you'll be using as a template to keep safe, so that every time you come to a new page you can draw around it and find your finished size. Second thing is lots of fabric. So I'm just shopping my stash because I just have so much. I've got old sheets, I've got calico, muslins. This is actually an old brushed cotton bed sheet. It's on about its 4th thing that it's done now. It was a sheet, then it got turned into curtains on the bathroom cupboard for a while, and now I've just been using it to edge a quilt that I made last night. I needed a soft edge for a rag quilt, and so I've torn loads of it up, and this is about all I've got left now, and I thought that would probably go quite nicely in either of the books. So there's that. I've got the leftover bits from my skirt, but I've also got, oh my goodness, a great big box of stash. And so I'll be rummaging through that, most definitely. I've got lace, organza, just all sorts. Another quite a handy thing, this is Pelmet Vilene. It's very thick and it's quite handy. You can draw on it really well, you can paint on it. I have this left over from making my bedroom curtain pelmet at the beginning of the year. That's all I've got left, but it's just going to be handy if it's something you have. Definitely we can use it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. You don't really need it. It's just something there that can be used. I will definitely be using the Inktense blocks and the pencils, but if you don't have them, don't worry about it. I've got artist paint, any type of acrylic paint. I've used them before really successfully. So if you've got these, great, and I'll probably do a bit of a tutorial about them on Wednesday. But if you don't have them, don't worry, it's not something you need to go and buy. We can do everything with a bit of cheap acrylic paint. And if you don't have that, there's always other ways around it. I've also got all sorts of bits here, bits left over, bits of, I don't know, all sorts. Another thing I'll be using are these bits of fabric. So this bit of old, wait till I get it out. This bit of old tray cloth was underneath something else I was painting and started to get really nicely marked with the colour, and so I just went along with it and made it even more painted up. That's definitely going to be used in either or both of the books because it's such a good colour. But also what I'll be using are the pieces of Hapazomi that I did a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure these are going to end up in the flower book. They can be over embroidered. They will definitely be able to be used. So any of you that actually did that technique after I posted it a couple of weeks ago, now's the chance to use that in something and make it look pretty. So they all definitely will be used. I've got some polyester silk here, so not the real good stuff, but it's just a bit of polyester silk that can get painted, dyed, quilted, smocked. I'll probably do a bit of the dragon scale smocking with this, probably in the bird book. I think I've got a feeling I could make it look like bird feathers, so that's definitely something. Got this bit of black shiny stuff, bits of organza, anything, absolutely anything. The other things you need, you're going to need a piece of greaseproof paper. I've got a bit there about, I don't know, I just pulled it off the roll. It's handy for working on top of when you're working with the acrylic paints or the Inktense. Protects your workspace quite nicely. Other than that, just use a plastic bag, that'll be fine. The thing you might need to go and buy if you're wanting to do the same technique is this, which is Bondaweb in the UK. I think in the America and Australia it might be called Wonderinder. Basically it's paper with a layer of glue on it, and it can be ironed onto fabric, and then I think people quite often use it for applique, and I haven't done that really before. I used to always pin and turn my applique, but it's going to be really handy. So I've got about 1 metre of it here, and I think that'll probably be enough. It means that you can iron fabric onto it, cut it out, and then iron that piece of the paper comes off, and then it gets ironed onto another bit of fabric. So it's a really, really good way of bonding your two pieces of fabric together. So that's definitely a good thing if you've got it. If you haven't, you might want to go and, well, see whether you like the techniques first, and if you do, that'll be something to go and get. But you're not going to need, you know, metres and metres of it. I think I've only got 1 metre there. And that'll be enough. Last but not least, we need our inspiration. So I'm definitely going to be using these 2 books for my inspiration. I've got Birds of Britain, and it's just handy for seeing the pictures of birds in different guises, different poses, bits of vegetation with them, but also all the information. That might be something to put onto the pages as I go. I'm not really sure yet, but they are just lovely to look through and decide whether it's something that you want to do or not. So I've got Birds of Britain, and I'm sure you'll have birds of, well, just insert country insert country instead of Britain. And I've also got my field guide of wildflowers. Meadow cranesbill has to be one of the most beautiful flowers. I remember it from my childhood being loads and loads of it. And I visited my great grandma. I had to walk through a field of meadow cranesbill when it was out. Anyway, I've got this as well. So if you haven't got a bird book or a flower book, there's so much on the internet. You can download a picture, look at a magazine. There might just be a picture in a magazine or a book, and it has a beautiful flower or a bird, or whatever else you might want to do your book for. You might want to do seashells, or I don't really know what else there might be. I think your imagination can go wherever it wants to, but for me, these are my 2 inspiration books, and that's what I definitely will be doing. Other than that, lace, embroidery threads, sewing thread, I think I've probably covered it. So there you have it. It's going to be an exciting next few weeks. I definitely am going to open an Instagram account. I've no idea what the hashtag thing is going to be yet. I'm speaking to my daughter tonight about the whole thing. And because I'm not used to this, I'm not quite sure what to call it. Whether it's going to be Marian's Fabric Book of Birds, or just Slow Stitching Bird Book, or I haven't really got a clue yet, but I will try and come up with that within the next few days. And what I'll do is I'll post the message on the community page of my channel, because I think that's what that's for letting people know things. Thank you for all your comments, you know, I love them. What has really surprised me is how many people said that they'd never heard of lavender wands or lavender bottles before. I just seem to think that everybody made them when they were children, and I kept thinking nobody's going to want to see this. But you've all loved it, so thank you for your comments. I hope if you've got access to some lavender that you do go and make one, because they're so simple. They're a bit fiddly at first, but you soon get used to it, and they're so lovely. I still have last year's in among my sheets and towels, and I'll be replacing them with this year's ones this year, and it is just nice. And every time you get your sheets out, you can see something that you've made and something that's come from your garden, and it just gives your heart that little bit of joy. So thank you everybody for that, and definitely send me comments. I'm getting so many now, I'm finding it difficult to reply to every single one, but I am trying my best. And definitely subscribe if you want to carry along and see how my 2 new books are going to go. I can't believe I'm actually going to do 2 at the same time, but originally it was going to be birds on one page and flowers on the other, or birds and their food, until I thought if I did an owl I might have to do a dead mouse or something, so I scrapped that plan quite quickly. So I've separated it out into a bird book and a flower book, and it may just be my garden flowers or it may be wildflowers. I'm not sure. I don't think I have to decide. I think we just decide as we go along. That's part of the fun of it. We decide everything as we go along, have a little bit of a plan in mind, and just see where the fabric and the stitching takes us all. Really looking forward to it, and I am definitely looking forward to getting my quilt finished. I'm so surprised that the quilt took over so much, but you all really have got me enthused again about it because of all your comments, and I can't actually believe it's going to get done after all this time. And I'll take you along on the journey with me. Thank you very much, and see you on Wednesday. If not before, if there's something else comes up. I have just made a quilt last night. If it comes out of the washing machine and I get a picture of it, I'll put it on the end of here, because I made a quilt out of my husband's trousers and his shirts yesterday, and I just got the idea in my head at about 9 o'clock last night, and it got finished this morning because I stayed up all night to do it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm so pleased you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye from Marion's World.